Before you send your song off to get mixed, you need to know how to bounce your stems properly. Because in the past, I've had some artists that come and work with me and they send stuff that is completely disorganized. Things are mislabeled, there's missing files, half the tones that they had on in their tracks were just regular DI when I got them. And I realized that overall this is my fault because I haven't made a video like this. So if you're looking to send your song off to get mixed, make sure you go through this entire video beforehand so that you understand everything that you need to do to properly bounce your stems out, so it makes you a better artist and the mix engineer can actually use their proper creative output to bring out the best in your song. So here's why it matters so much to export your stems correctly. When you aren't exporting your stems correctly, a few things like this could happen. Your tracks don't line up on time, your guitar tones or vocal effects disappear, or worse, your mixer spends hours fixing the stuff that you could have prevented in less than 5 minutes. These things will make your mixes take way longer, they'll cost more, and ultimately they won't sound like you expected. Now here's exactly how to bounce your stems the right way, no matter what DAW you use. Now here I am inside my DAW. This is how we're gonna get our stems bounced out properly. First thing we wanna do is we wanna make sure that our tracks are in the correct order, from drums at the top to Vox at the bottom. And this is going to be important for when we bounce up the stems. I will show you in just a second. But what we want to do is we want to have drums at the top. Next down, we want to have bass. Then we want all the guitars. By the way, all these guitars are housed inside this folder. So these are all my rhythm guitars, lead guitars, and clean guitars are all housed in there. And then like MIDI instruments is right here. Effects, samples, and Vox. There's no Vox on this record because this is my instrumental stuff. But yeah, so just make sure it's all ordered like that. If you don't want to spend the time to order all of this yourself and you just want this session printed out just from the start so you can start writing, go down in the description below. I have a free Reaper template. If you're a Reaper user, you can download this and get this exact session, how it's mapped out, so you can go and just start writing without having to think about ordering everything when you're getting ready to bounce out your stems. Go and claim that in my description. Next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that all of the effects that we want are on and all the effects that we don't want mixed are off. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go through every single effects and show you. This is kind of like a no-brainer. If you don't want reverb on your snare and you'd rather have the mix engineer do that, or you don't want it at all, turn it off. If you want the reverb on your snare, leave it on. So you want every plugin that you want on to be mixed to be turned on right now. Be sure to send these tracks as raw as possible. I don't mean send everything with DIs. What I mean is don't mix yet. The purpose of getting your stuff mixed is you need to be able to send like quality demo files to a mix engineer so that then they can actually mix it. When you're writing, you should not be mixing. All you should be focusing on is making sure your source tones are really good. So make your tracks as raw as possible, but make sure that your source tones are completely full the way that you like them. Next thing we want to do is we want to check to make sure that all of our tracks, every single one, is not clipping. So that means making sure that nothing is going into the red. So the way I like to do this is I pulled this up, which is my master mixer, and then I just play my song. As you can see right here, we have something going into the red. So what I would do is I would just minus this by around 6 dB. But that's not really going to do anything because that's my mix bus anyways. What you want to focus on is your individual tracks. So like, is your kick number one? Like, is your kick going into the red? Like individually, is your rhythm guitar going to the red? You want to focus on those individual tracks, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that your peaks are at a maximum of -6 to -3 dB. So if we go across these tracks right here, we can see that our peak on our rhythm guitar is -13, -13. Let's see. Our bass is minus 13. Our overheads are minus 5. So like minus 13 is still fine. What we really want to make sure of is make sure it's not clipping. Like a mix engineer can get a slightly quieter file and then just increase the volume with limiters. Obviously, don't make your files so quiet that they're so inaudible that like when the engineer boosts it up, it's going to clip anyways. Just make sure that everything is at a reasonable volume level. Make sure nothing is clipping into the red. That's basically what I'm saying. But if everything is super loud and you need to dial everything back because you see a bunch of red going on everywhere inside of your mixer, just literally highlight everything and then just put minus 6 dB on it, and you'll be good to go from there. Now, next, this is like one of the most important things that that really helps out, especially the mix engineer, when we come to the later parts of actually importing your files into our session. What you want to do is you want to highlight the entire time selection of your song. As you can see, I have multiple songs in here, so I'm just highlighting one. And what you want to do is you want to highlight from the very start of the song to the very end, and you literally want to highlight every single track just like that. And these are getting highlighted. It's just in a folder so you can't see it. And then what you want to do is you want to glue the items. This depends on the DAW you're using, but in Reaper, you just right click and then glue items within time selection. So as you can see now, even if you have like a tiny wave file of just an uplifter, which would normally be about the size of this right here, it takes up the entire track. So that way, when the mix engineer goes to import your song, everything is timeline. We don't have to guess where your impacts hit. We don't have to guess where certain lead parts come in, because as you can see right here on lead guitar C, we only have a few parts of the song where it plays, but we have the entire file right here ready to export. So literally all you do is just drag it to the back and everything lines up perfectly in time. So let's recap real quick. First, you want to make sure the order of your tracks is properly implemented. So drums at the top, Vox all the way at the bottom. You want to make sure that all of your effects are either on and off depending on what you want mixed. You want to make sure that none of your individual tracks are clipping, and you want the max peaks around -6 to -3 dB. You want to glue the tracks in time selection. Now it's actually time to bounce them out. To bounce out, especially if you have multi-song sessions like I have right here, you want to highlight the time selection of that individual song. What I do on Reaper is I create regions. So this is one song. I name the song at the top so I know which song I'm in at wherever I'm at in my DAW, right? But creating region and then time select it. You want to go up to File, Render, or whatever your DAW does. And then you want to put Source on selected tracks and stems. And then you want the bounds to be time selection. So what you're going to do is you are literally, I'm not going to do this because it would take forever, but you're literally going to select every single stem that you want exported. So in this case, if I want to export the drums, I would highlight all the drums. And then I would go down here and I would highlight the bass. But I kind of messed that up. So you might have to export all these individually. But I think I figured out a way to do this last time. Yeah, you can just hold Control and then click all the ones that you want to export. So what we're doing, again, is we are exporting our selected stems inside of our time selection. Now, obviously, next, we're going to pick our directory where we want it to bounce out to. So I would recommend making a folder that looks like this, and it has all the names of your songs, and whenever you want to bounce out those stems, you just put it in the respective folder. So I won't do that because I'm not going to bounce these out, but what we're doing next is File name. File name is very, very important. So for file name, there's something called wildcards. So we want to put it as track number and track. What I do is I put an underscore. So what this will do is it will number every single track from track 1 all the way to track 100 if you have 100 tracks. So that way, when we export the files, everything is going to be lined up in order from 1 to infinity. In this case, my kick starts on track 5, so it starts on track 5. So it'll be kick, snare, hat, toms, cymbals, overheads, ambient, and then it goes down to the guitars right here, and then it goes down to lead guitars, clean guitars, all of the MIDI instruments, and then it basically, when you number the tracks and then put the name of the track, it literally exports all of your tracks in the order that it is in your DAW. So it's not just all jumbled over the place. And this makes it really easy for the engineer to just go in, grab your tracks, and just drag them right in to his session. Now, before we hit export, we want to make sure a few options are enabled. Sample rate, you want the sample rate to be the same sample rate that is in your DAW. So I'm doing 44.1 kilohertz. So make sure that your sample rate is also the same. You want the channels to be stereo, but if there is specific things like guitars, you want to make sure that you're exporting in mono to make sure that you're not giving stereo tracks of mono tracks, okay? And then you want the format to be WAV. WAV is the highest quality. You want your bit rate to be 24 is fine. Everything else is good. And then you just press render whatever files you're bouncing out. So if I'm just bouncing out guitars, for example, I'm going to track number underscore track with mono and wave, and then I'm going to render it out. And then once you do your whole session, it's going to look like this. So it's really easy for the mix engineer to go in and start mixing your song. Now you should have a better understanding of how to actually bounce your stems out properly. But here are the top mistakes that I see all the time, even when you take everything I just said into account. Make sure you double check these things before you bounce them out. Sometimes there may be reverbs or delays printed when they shouldn't be. Sometimes if you're using amp sims, your tuning setting will be turned on in your amp sim, making it unable to actually read the amp sim audio. I recommend also printing DIs for guitars. Even if you have your own custom tone, it might be important to send DIs over to the mixer so that just in case if your tone doesn't make the mix final cut, they can reamp it for you. If you're using MIDI drums, also export a MIDI file. And most importantly, make sure all of the files are zipped up correctly before you send them over. Make sure they're in a folder that is well organized and none of the files are corrupted. Do a quality check before you send them over. So when you bounce your stems out like this that I showed you in this video, you look like a professional, even if you're just recording in your home studio or your bedroom. Most importantly, you show the mixer that you respect the process and understand what it takes to get a great result. I'm Jacob with TonalChemist Audio. I mix heavy music that sounds legit. If you want your song to sound massive, make sure you follow all the steps in this video before you send them over to me. Or if you're not sure if you bounce them out correctly, send me a direct message and I'll check it for free before you book a mixing session with me. I got free stuff down in the description. Also, that's where you can work with me. Go down, click the links below if you need anything in there, and make sure to like and subscribe because that really helps me out right now. My channel is growing at a pretty good rate, so I would appreciate it if you helped me out just by taking 2 seconds to just hit subscribe. I will see you in the next video.